There we are. Hey, aloha, everybody.
Hey, Charles,
Hey, brother.
we're live.
We're live. Well, like
It's
I said,
Aloha Friday, everybody. Aloha Friday.
yeah, Aloha Friday. Minus 2 days back. It's Aloha Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to Mel and Charlie live on Facebook on this beautiful Wednesday. It's about little after 6:45, a little bit before 6:50. So it's about 6:45, little after 6:46, but before 6:47.
Tyson and Rhonda, the first two people on. Welcome, Tyson and Rhonda. Yeah, Jane, yes, you're live. Yes, we're live. I know, we're live. We're live. Hey, what a show last night, man. I gotta tell you, last night, one of my favorites, I gotta say, and then the post show was I still struggling with that. I still struggling with the post show and but we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on from that. We're gonna pursue what we can. And bottom line is this: the testing is on, people. I cannot express enough how important it is for everyone to go out and sign up and get tested. Next week, Wednesday, Kauai Beach Resort. If you haven't done so, please go to doctorsofwaikiki.com and sign up for your test. We have a full array of testing available. So the bottom line is this: we have new groups of people. We got visitors coming in. We got a flawed process at the airport. Kauai, I got to say, has stepped up and put in a county screening process that somewhat works. And I got to thank the county for that. But with the Memorial Day weekend, with the protesting, the rallies, and the opening of the quarantine for Inter Island, we can expect to see some growing numbers. So now is the time to find out if you were exposed prior and just really peace of mind. So again, doctorsofwaikiki.com next week, Wednesday, Kauai Beach Resort. Again, I want to thank Mick Minicola and Debbie Anagihara for allowing us the use of the Kauai Beach Resort. Donated. Community leaders doing what they can to help the community. And again, a shout out, of course, to Misty over at Malama Pono, who reached out to us to offer her clinic. And if you watched last night, you understand what happened. They basically taken away by the State Department of Health. So we are going to proceed with the testing because that's what you all were asking for. And I'm hoping that we can fill all the slots. I hope we can fill all the slots next week, Wednesday. Opportunity, man, that's never happened and may not happen again. So take advantage. Aside from that, man, last night we did the stakeout, bro. We did the stakeout last night. I took one of the Marauders, Troy Ale. We had a good time, man. We had a good time, and we're going back out. So for those of you that think nobody's watching, somebody's always watching, man. I'm excited, Charlie. I wish you lived closer. Man.
well, the closest I probably live is K-Triple-C or inside the cell lock up at the way things
go. We were thinking how we're gonna, when we see the perpetrators go in, we had them all planned, man. We're gonna basically. My pops never believed you went stakeout last night. Like I told Troy last night. I said, when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do them. And I really, yes, they did lock they locked the parking lot entrances on the Kapuli Highway side. But there is one more entrance that you can come in by the exit gate, right before, if you're leaving the airport, passing baggage claim. On the left, there's one entrance that they do not lock up. So that's where we were surveillancing last night. And we had a good time, but we figured it out. Okay, this is what we're going to do. Once that car drive in, we're going to double back. We're going to come across and we're going to meet them when they park that car. I'm going to fire up the Facebook Live and we're going to expose them, make them famous, and the world will be able to see these knuckleheads that are violating the law and allowing people that should not be in a rental car in a rental car. So,
You know what you do, brother? You should take the keys away, do a Facebook Live, and we're going to do a live auction right then and there and take the cars and sell them.
whoa. Troy said, Mel, bruh, let's just take the car. And then when the cops come, just said, I don't know, we was checking out the parking lot and somebody came up, threw us on keys, say, hey, you guys can have the car, and we could keep the car. It was so funny because I had on security guard there last night, one of the overnight securities, a retired police officer. So I told him, bruh, you never hear this from me, but all I'm gonna do is when they park the car, I'm going in the car, I'm gonna take the key and I'm gonna take off without the, and then I'm gonna have one key. He told me, maybe he says maybe you should just call police when they said not go in the car. Well, honestly, we had hope, but hey, it's like fishing. Maybe the word got out last night, maybe not, but there's always tonight, there's always tomorrow night. So I'll shoot you guys a picture tonight again once I'm there, and you guys will get to see the vantage point of a true real life stakeout, quarantine busters, I guess you could call it. But anyway,
Bad boys,
Maurice,
what you going to do? What you
no,
going to do?
Maurice, huh?
Bad boys, what you going to do?
Oh, man, I was so ready. Anyway, tonight we got Chipper Wichman. He's a president of the National Tropical Botanical Garden. I'm sorry. Oh my God, I messed that up. I'll let him introduce himself because I don't like screw it up. But if I saw, I've known Chipper for a very long time, and when Chipper was on the PBS Insights special where they had the tourism group, the promoters of tourism, and the people that were in organizations that were basically fighting to protect our resources, Chipper did a heck of a job talking about what happened out on the North Shore after the flooding and how we were able to use that crisis, that disaster, and turn it into a very good system and process. And he's going to be accompanied by Joel Guy, longtime buddy of mine as well, and they work really well together. So I'm going to bring them on, Charles. And this, I got to tell you, it's going to be a fun discussion knowing these two guys. Chipper can talk. There's Chipper. There's Chipper.
There's
Aloha, Chipper.
Hey, Mel. Charlie, how's it?
Hey, how you doing, Chip?
Good, brother.
Yeah.
I can see already. If you look right behind his head, look at the book, biology. This guy is smart, Charlie. He's smart. Look him. I cannot say the tropical garden flora. Oh my God. See, that's the problem. He's intimidating as a guest.
Oh, you get good eyes, bro. You can't see that.
Hey, Mel, you see mine behind? That's my dictionary for dummies right there.
And Mr. Joel Guy, welcome, Joel.
Yeah.
Aloha, mahalo.
Thank you so much. Good to see you again,
Oh
Chipper.
man, I'm so looking forward to tonight. And in a little bit, I'm going to turn it over to Chipper. You can introduce yourself, and Joel, you can do the same. But I saw you, Chipper, on the PBS Insights when you guys. It was the divided group, man. You had all the Pearl tourism guys, and you actually cut that moderator off. You shut him down. And I'm telling my wife, nobody shuts that guy down. Chipper, you know what? That guy knew better. He did not even try. He tried a little bit, and then he realized it's a losing battle. Plus, what you had to say was so compelling. He wanted to hear it. So good job, Chipper. And then,
Thank you.
and Joel, they tell me we cannot have Chipper without Joel. So
Well, Mel, before we let them go, Mel, how's about everybody who's watching tonight? Please share this, start a watch party. Let's get this conversation throughout the entire state. As you know, Chip and Joel, we got a lot of people from out of state watching this as well. So let's start a watch party if you're watching it right now, and let's make this thing go viral because there's a lot of good information to be discussed tonight. Okay, take it away, Mel. Take it away.
All right. Well, tonight we're going to talk about how the heck we're going to move forward in a safe and a way, as far as tourism goes, in a way that we can retain and maintain our cultural lifestyle here on Kauai. So with that, Chipper, why don't you start introduce yourself a little bit, and Joel, go right after that, and then take it away, man. We'll have some fun.
Okay. All right. Well, aloha and mahalo for reaching out. My phone started buzzing last night. Mike the Helig and Joel, and hey, Mel's trying to get a hold of you. So I'm not a Facebook user, so I'm not a regular on your show. I don't do social media, but the Coconut Wireless, it'll find you wherever you are. We were up at Koke, so. But I'm Chipper Wichman, and I'm the president of the National Tropical Botanical Garden. I've worked at the garden since 1976. But I think also importantly, in the context of our conversation tonight, I'm the 5th generation in our family to live in Haena. And it's a very special place on our island for all of our residents. We got to raise our kids out there, and it's just, it's a special spot on our island. And I know we'll get into it. We'll get into it more, but it's just been incredible for me to see the vision that we had starting 30 years ago put into place, and to see residents coming back there at levels I'm just thrilled to live to see this happening. We'll talk more about that, but you got to listen to Brother Joel, because he's a community-led, government-supported man, and he taught me that phrase, and it's absolutely the way to go, man. So,
Thank you, Chipper. Yeah, thank you, Mel, and Charlie. And I was just want to say another thank you to your wives for allowing you guys to do this service, because we really appreciate it. I know Stephanie and Patsy; those guys got to handle. They got to put up with you. You guys are gone every night, and we really appreciate it as a community. So I want to make sure that we extend our thank you to them as well. And then,
You heard that, Patsy?
I heard. He deserves a bag of
and Chipper.
Bro, my wife just said you deserve a bag of cookies for saying that.
Oh, well, I ate too many cookies over this quarantine, so thank her, but maybe next time when I get some workout in. And yeah, to be able to work with Chipper, and to be able to we spent hours on the phone today already, and that was a good call today. Thank you, Chipper.
awesome. It was awesome.
But having someone like that, I was so fortunate and really overwhelmed with gratitude to have been able to be born and raised in Haena. And so at 50 years old now, well, not quite, I'm almost 50, to be able to have people like Chipper in our community from when we were little kids and to look up to, and to now get to work with him side by side, it's really been he's just such an incredible voice of reason. I look forward to hearing more from him tonight. And my job is the executive director of the Hanley Initiative. I just want to make that last plug there.
Awesome. I mean, community leaders, man. That's what these guys are. I remember, Chipper, what your grandma's name?
Juliet Rice Wichman.
Yeah. I remember sitting, this went way back when I used to be a police officer in Hanley. I remember sitting down with her one afternoon, and I can't remember what the call was. It was obviously nothing major. I can't remember what it was, but I ended up sitting with her probably about 3.5 hours, just sharing. And she was such a sweetheart right there. And I was just beautiful. So welcome you guys. And
well, I would not be on your show tonight if it wasn't for her. I mean, she took a pretty Kolohe kid and straightened him out, and taught me some fantastic values and appreciation for Hawaiian culture. And it was really my tutu lady and my wife. They're the ones that straightened me out. So she deserves a bag of cookies too.
You got it. So Chipper, talk to us a little bit about well, we all know now. I guess we should start pre-disaster, the flooding disaster of 2018. What Haena became, and then what happened at the flood, and then what happened after the flood. And if you have Facebook, you're noticing now a lot of local people are hiking up again Hanakapiai, which we've never seen for so long.
Yeah.
But if you could take us down that road, and Joel, jump in at any time, man, and share.
Yeah. Well, boy, I mean, growing up, I tell you, I kind of say this in jest, but I think there's actually some truth in it. You know, when we were growing up, all of Haiana was owned by the Hui Kuai'aina o Haiana. It was a hui of people that was formed in 1875, 38 Hawaiian families, and they owned the entire Ahupua'a in undivided interest. So they had, you know, various house lots and allotments, and everybody was entitled to water from the stream and allowed to run so many head of cattle. And back in those days, we fenced in the people, and the people ran wild. And when we were kids growing up out there, you know, sometimes it was scary going out nighttime. You get because these was the buggers with long horns, you know. I mean, these were big peepee out there, big cows. So, um, but it was a really wonderful time when we would get excited if you remember those initial we call them the stretch, the initial, you know, the predecessor of the tourist bus or whatever. It was just basically one
Stretch
stretch
out.
limousine, right? And
We
Yeah.
call it the stretch out. Remember, it was a
yeah, the
stretch
stretch
out.
out, that's what we call it, you know. And whoa, we get all excited when one of those would come down to Hannah. Only one a day, but boy, that was, you know, that was that was. And then when the Hui partition ended in 1967, and people began to buy and sell the real estate out there, things began to change. But it still remained, you know, a very rural area, still not overrun. Until really, I think the big change was the dot-com bubble, and you know, at that time, and I'm gonna touch on this because I want to come back to it a little bit later in our conversation. You know, at that time, what happened was people started buying up the beachfront real estate in Haiena as investment properties, not as a place to raise your family or live. These were investment properties, and the land values just went up into the millions. And these big houses got built, and they were most of the time transit vacation rentals, even though it was illegal in the conservation district to have a vacation rental. And every one of those people, they signed a covenant that was recorded at the Bureau of Conveyances saying that it was illegal to do that, but there was no enforcement. So that period really was when Haiena began to kind of blow wide open, and and we began seeing people coming in ever greater numbers. And at the end of the partition of the Hui in 1967, the state made its move to acquire the end of the road and to create a state park. And you know, they did that through federal funding that they acquired, and some people sold and others did not, and that's what resulted in Taylor Camp, and Howard Taylor really fought it legally. And you know, that's a whole nother, we could have a whole nother show just on that. But eventually the state solidified ownership of that section, which is now Hyannis State Park. And then they put a toilet in at the very end of the road, on top of, I want to tell you honestly, on top of Ivi Kupuna, right? So if you go underneath that restroom, there are ancient burials right there. And we know that because some of them came out when they were putting in the septic, when they had to convert it from the cesspool to the septic. Um, I mean, some beautiful, looked like may have even been a chiefly compound. But they put in their restroom and then they walked away. And the type of visitor that our island gets, they're not here for shopping, and you know, some of the husbands for golf and stuff, but most of them, they're here for an outdoor experience. And Napali is a world-class outdoor experience. So Haiena, as the gateway to Napali, began to draw every single visitor, 90% of our visitors. And the numbers started going up from hundreds to thousands. And the state was not regulating it. And so we began to see Haiena literally wall-to-wall cars, Kuhio Highway, wall-to-wall cars. Our highway became a parking lot, and the number of cars coming down there, it was unbelievable. And so literally 30 years ago, the community started pushing back on this, and we started trying to kickstart planning efforts with the county and the state, and some of them went forward. We actually were moving forward with, I thought, a good planning process before Hurricane Iniki hit. That's how long ago. And the agency that was running that as a consultant for the state folded and walked away with the master plan. I was the only one that ended up with a copy of the master plan. And you know, I mean, it was just it was just pathetic. And so anyway, make a kind of a long story short, and we'll get into more details. The community has been working. The community has had a vision for how to retake that park and make it a resource that our residents and our community can use. We had a plan of how to get individual cars off the road and create a shuttle, and really it's thanks to community leaders, but really thanks to Representative Nadine Nakamura, who began convening the different agencies and the individuals that needed to be around the table. And this is pre-flood, so his meeting before the flood. And she was able to get the people around the table who could make the difference. And then when the flood hit, we said, this is it, because you know what the problem was? I think we got DOT counts of something like 3,500 cars a day going down to high. 3,500, and you figure 2 or 3 people in a car, you know, you're looking at, you know, 6,000 to 10,000 people a day coming down there. And we basically, and so the idea was, okay, how can we scale back? How can we scale back? We got the master plan, a community-driven, community-led, government-supported process in the planning process to scale back to 900 people a day. But the state was all puiva. How are we going to implement this thing? We got all these thousands of people, the expectation, everybody's coming here, wants to go down there. How are we going to do that? And then the flood hit, and it changed the conversation. It's not about scaling back now. It's about the fact that there's zero. When we open up again, what is it going to be like? And we used that opportunity to put in place this community-based plan. It required every agent, it required county, it required state parks, it required DOT. I mean, it was a truly interagency community-led initiative, and it works. And it works to the degree that we created it so that there's always free parking spaces in Hyannis State Park for residents. They don't have to make an advance reservation. They don't have to pay a fee. They just got to show up with a driver's license, state driver's license, Kingdom of Hawaii ID, something that shows that they're a local. And we began to see 30, 40 cars or a day. So we began to see the residents coming back in there. But this COVID thing really is the indicator of how important that resource is for our island, because once the state park opened up, in May, we saw the parking lot full almost every day. Joel can talk more about it. His group has been keeping statistics on the numbers of people. But that first weekend we opened up, I think there were 800 people in the park. Our island residents have been dying for decades to get back and rebuild that relationship with Hyannis. And it's happening exactly like you said. They're hiking the Pali, they're going to KA, they're enjoying that park without being completely crowded out and overrun by visitors. So, when the visitors come back, we have a plan to be able to integrate it and continue to see our residents being able to use it at that kind of level. And that's what Joel and I were on the phone for a couple hours today with other leaders. But, this is an unprecedented time. And what I really hope is that I'm not too optimistic about the state because it just seems like there's so many moving parts, but I really hope that we here on Kauai can reset how we look at visitors and really try and create a more sustainable future for ourselves, because we shouldn't have to go back to the kind of traffic jams we were having, prior to COVID. I mean, we've got to create a quality of life for those of us that live here that's gonna benefit us and our children and our mo'opuna, the grandchildren that follow us. So I'll stop rambling there. Joel got plenty good manao, and then we can kind of make it more of a dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much, Chipper. I always love hearing you speak and kind of going from the partition and bringing it up to today. You do such a great job of that. And I think it just speaks to that voice of reason and then the value that had in this process. For me, it was truly an honor to be a part of it from, a last decade and a half through the master planning process. And then after the flood, when you saw it go from, those numbers that you talked about down to nothing, you really couldn't help but want to be a part of the solution. You really wanted to be able to allow that reset and then to see how how do you move forward out of it? I think one thing that I'd love to kind of amplify on what you talked about was the collaboration of agencies. And I think that like I know I was slammed. We're still busy trying, like, because it's, you get to the point where you open up the gate and then you start running the shuttle, and a lot of people can go, okay, we're good, we did our job. That's kind of where we started, right? It took us a year to get this thing going. And then it's like, how do you make it pay for itself? How do you make this thing financially viable? How do you not piss off the merchants in Honolulu? How do you take care of the resorts in Princeville? How do you look at, there's so many facets to the operation of it now that it's going. And I think it's so important to have those collaborative relationships. And Chipper does such a great job of kind of, mitigating that concern. And I hope that the discussion will lead to, how do we implement this at other places around the island and around the state? We know, we talked today a little bit about on Maui, they're looking at, I think it's Senator English is looking at a model there to implement. I mean, there's so much value in what happened already. And rather than recreating the wheel, are there things that we can do? And all I can say, because there's much, smarter people a part of this, that you need everybody at the table. I think the value of having, what were you guys calling her last night? Sue was the
Lioness.
Having the lioness at the table was priceless. Like, you can't do any, like, and when you look at visitor, going from a visitor generation position of where you want to generate more visitors to a visitor management model, and having that philosophy from a leadership level, from Chris Tatum to Sue, to having these guys all understand that, yeah, it's a little bit of an inconvenience, but when you pay your $15 or, whatever, that's what our shuttle fee is. Most of these people are used to that, paying those kind of fees at other national parks. And when you get there, you see something that's been cared for, that's beautiful, that's worth I'll pay double that, rather than fighting with the local kid for the parking spot and cars backed up everywhere and tickets when you come back to your car. Like, it's so much better when it can be managed in a way that you're not, I guess the visitor was happy to support that, and the visitor industry understood that. It wasn't like there was this big fight, as long as they're at the table. So I'll let you guys have some questions maybe, or some kind of directions to go in, but I hope that we can really utilize what's happened there and really replicate that. I think there's places on Kauai that it would just fit perfectly for.
Well, let me ask the first question for both of you. When you looked at starting this model, were there, knowing that there were so many parts to it, because Chipper, you said the amount of cars that came in, right? You want to expose people to the beauty, but you didn't want to over-taxi the place. You wanted to keep it as pristine as possible and keep everything within check and balance. When you developed this model, what did you take into consideration first before putting something like this into motion? Because for me personally, I wouldn't know where to begin. I mean, it's like you said, there's a lot of moving parts. Like I would really like to know what is the most important thing that you had to do before getting this thing off the ground and moving that direction.
So to me, I had a very, really, really amazing opportunity, not only my tutu lady, but also many other really super smart kupuna to be able to, and this one kupuna when I was growing up, his name was Papakala Na'ali'e Lua. And he was actually born in Wainiha. He was an amazing type of kahuna type of guy. And he kept telling me, boy, you gotta listen to the Aina. You gotta listen to the Aina. And when you're a young punky kid looking at a surfer and this, hard to listen to the Aina. But if you can stop and slow yourself down and listen to the Aina, you get plenty for charity. So where we started was, the Aina was crying out, Charlie. It was crying out to us that, you know what, I'm being trampled to death. I'm being abused. I'm being raped and pillaged. And the monetary return for the state was nothing. They were getting nothing, zeros, right? I mean, it was just, we were damaging our most precious resource with nothing in return. So granted, hundreds of thousands of visitors had a great experience, but it also got to the point where you'd have a line of people trying to hike into Hanakapi'a, passing each other. I mean, it gets to the point where the reality is we no longer have 3 billion people on our planet. We no longer have 5 billion people on our planet. We have 7 billion people on our planet, and we're heading towards 11 billion. And the reality is we just got too many people to be able to continue to operate places like this with no active management. And so where we started was, what does our INA need? What does our community need? And you know, the term carrying capacity, it's a dangerous term. Go look at Hanama Bay. Hanama Bay was overrun, totally abused, this, that, and the other thing, and they put in place a management plan. They cut it down to only 3,000 people a day. So they're all excited about how good it's working at Hanama Bay, but I can tell you what, if you or I went over there, we wouldn't even want to go down the beach because it's wall to wall with people and suntan oil, and you know, I mean, so it's all about, we could have justified a carrying capacity at Hyanna of 3,000 people a day through various mechanisms, but that wasn't right. We went back to our community. What is right? We want to see actually the INA have a chance to rest and be able to be restored. That's where we started the process. And what's right for the community, what's right for the INA, and then let's put in place the mechanisms to be able to achieve that.
And I'll just add to that, because I think he speaks clearly to the motivation that kind of helps the community get involved. If you ask that question to the community, you'll work all day and night to make this work. I think public safety and first responders' access to that area was really impeded during the last couple, you know, that became such an issue. And I think it was Kavika Winter that actually called Nadine and was like, look, there's cars from K all the way to Manini Holo, both sides of the road. We can't get our fire trucks through here. So you have this kind of like public safety perspective, Charlie, that I think really helps. Yeah. It gets the attention of everybody, right? You're all like, if that's at stake or if that's at risk, then we want to be a part of, we want to listen more on how we can solve that problem. Right? I mean, that was part of that early discussion was like,
yeah, absolutely.
Out the time and then you get county, you get state, you get all these people kind of interested in supporting it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, I think Chipper, you mentioned something to this effect earlier about allowing where the community really has to be the leader. Because you could use a formula. Hanama Bay, great example. You could use a formula that some $300,000 consulting will tell you what the carrying capacity is, and in reality, that's not accurate.
Yeah.
And I think traditionally, historically, even with COVID, we have allowed the visitor industry to have a much larger stake at the table. Remember when the governor made his press conference about the initial quarantine? He was surrounded by people in the visitor industry. He was surrounded by all of the big money corporate Hawaiian Air and HTA and HLTA. That's who was advising him. That was his team that allowed the quarantine to have a 5 or 6 day delay. We got to be really careful. Right now, you talked about we had that one opportunity, the reset with the flood. COVID is no different. Yeah, we have a reset opportunity that four of us here will never see again in our lifetime, more than likely. We will not have this opportunity again. And we got to take this opportunity and restructure this industry on our island. You know, Honolulu, Maui, whatever they want to do, God bless them. But for Kauai, we have an opportunity now, utilizing what you all did on the North Shore, and use that same model, using the same types of discussion strategies, getting the right people at the table, and starting to define Kauai as the community wants to see it, not the industry. And I think that I talked about this a few nights ago, and I said, this is my fear, Chipper and Joel, and Charlie probably gets sick and tired of me hearing me say this, but right now we don't know when the end is going to be. We don't. So, you know, human nature says, hey, bye, procrastinate, we'll get to it later. But every day that goes by, that end of this pandemic, the end of the quarantine comes closer and closer and closer. Right. If we don't have that plan in place, if we don't have the political will or balls to set this strategy in place, what's going to happen is tourism is going to restart. In the middle of this reset period, tourism is going to start. Then all of a sudden, we're right back at where we were. And then it'll be too easy, too convenient, too profitable for us to go back in time and try to restructure, reset when the tourism industry is going full blast. And that is my fear, just in my experiences working in government, that's the easy way out, get everybody back to work. But we have gained nothing for this INA, as you say, during this pandemic. It would have been for nothing. And that is my fear.
Yeah. So, let me share with you a personal experience that we're going through right now at the garden. And so National Tropical Botanical Garden, we got 5 gardens, 5 preserves, and we had 120 employees in January going into COVID. We have the largest curated collection of rare and endangered tropical Pacific plants in the world. I mean, the work Charlie knows. I mean, he's he drank the Kool-Aid, but it's really, really important work. And in 2008, 2009, the world fell off a cliff, and in the summer of 2009, I had to cut $1 million out of our payroll budget. And that meant laying off community people whose families depended on their job working at the garden, who had probably given up better paying opportunities to come work for us because of our mission. But we had no money. We were in a situation where there was no PPP program then. There was some kind of tarp or something. We never get no edge of that tarp covering us, nothing. So it was rough. And so one of the things we did is I said, I don't want to ever experience that again. So let's make our organization more resilient to that kind of economic shock. So we had very little earned revenue at that time. So we said, we're going to build up an earned revenue machine. We're going to build up a visitor program. We're going to generate more revenue. And we did it. I raised $15 million. We invested in the infrastructure. We bought buses. And that program was generating net $1 million a year for our science and conservation and education, all that really mission-driven stuff that we do. So it was awesome. But what we were also doing was kind of like what our island is with the visitor industry. We were chasing one more visitor, one more busload of visitors. We just gotta let's. And what we're realizing right now is maybe that was not the right model. Maybe we're going to use this as a chance for us as an organization to reset. And rather than finding people who want to come and pay $40 for a nice tour and then leave and go on a zip line or go somewhere else, that's what we call a transactional relationship. I'm going to give you $40. I'm going to get a nice tour of the garden, and then I'm on my way. We want to build a lasting relationship. We want to build a philanthropic relationship. We want to find people to come through our organization that care about the work that we do and the plants that we're saving and the community members that we're educating, and build relationships that will last. And that's what will create sustainability. And I think as an island, we should be looking at that same model rather than another, in my opinion, 1 million visitors a year on this island is already too much. But the models that are in place are pushing us to 1.3, 1.5, 1.6. We can't even deal with 1 million or 1.2 million. So we need this chance, Mel, to reset, to build relationships with our visitors that's more meaningful. I would argue right now that if you did intercept surveys on all when right before COVID, on all of the visitors, the tourists that were coming to Hyannis State Park, they were having a better, higher quality experience than the people did before the flood when there was, 10,000 people down there. And that's what I'm saying we need. That's the part of this model that we as an island need to embrace. But it's not going to be easy because we've been sold the Kool-Aid for so long. One more bigger VDA, one more this. If we don't do it, our kids don't have jobs. We've got to figure out how do we create a more sustainable economy for our island. And I think it's about quality, not quantity. And I'm not sure exactly all the mechanisms on that, but I think one of the tools that we've got to address, and this is a hot issue in every county, is the over proliferation of TVRs, many of which are illegal, out in our communities because it totally rips our communities apart. They no longer become communities where you know your neighbors. They become transient communities. It drives up real property tax. There's many great arguments. Well, that's helping, me to be able to pay my income tax or buy a bigger house but the reality is we worked really hard through our general plan process to create VDAs to contain and manage visitor destinations and visitor growth. But with the proliferation of Airbnbs and visitors staying out in the community, we lose control of that. And what you end up is with more visitors and a lower spend per head. And the cost, the social cost to our island is really heavy. And so I gotta stop pontificating right there. But I think these are not easy issues to deal with because it's a paradigm shift. And it's going to require buy-in from the visitor industry. It's going to require buy-in from the community. That we can no longer just have growth. We've got to find a way to manage sustainably at a level that doesn't mean a 10% growth every year in the number of visitors arriving. And then you layer on top of that, we have no control over the airlines coming to the county has no control over what airlines come in, and you start getting airlines that want to bring cheap flights directly to Kauai. They're going to dump more people here than we can handle unless we have a mechanism to manage that. And ultimately, if you can't find a place to sleep, that's going to be the management tool that's going to control visitors getting off of planes.
Yeah, again, and we talk about this a lot as well. And, I think 10 years ago, if you talked about raising taxes on TVRs and the acceptance was not as positive, but I can tell you right now, it's a complete opposite. I think the public has had enough. The public, because of COVID, the residents have seen Kauai as they remembered Kauai, where you can drive to Lihue and not be stuck in this ridiculous traffic. It's so nice to drive. I love tourists, don't get me wrong, but it's so nice to drive and see no rental cars on the road. No need contraflow. That saves the state millions of dollars. I mean, again, these things, I think now, and I'm going back to my point, now is the time because the residential or the residents of Hawaii, the acceptance of these types of changes is favorable. It's not going to be there forever. And now is the time we got to make those decisions. The state, it has to start allowing the counties to give them some home rule authority. We as a county should be able to determine what flights come in, how many flights. We have no right, as you said, Chipper. Yeah. Who gives a damn? We just keep flying them. The routes, they pay the money to the state, they get the route, they bring the people here. The county should have the ability to control the number of rental cars on the island. The county should be able to control the ability to charge surcharges on these activities that can help the county, pay for the impacts that these tourists bring. But right now, I think the discussion has to be, how do we limit the number of visitors that come to Kauai? I was going to grab, I don't have, my wife walked out, but if you take a nickel and the size of a nickel, and you take a dime, the dime is much smaller, but has so much more value. It's double the value of the nickel, but it's smaller. So we don't need all the tourists. You described the quality experience. People hated KABs. The tourists be complaining about the parking, the road, the bathrooms, the crowdiness pre-flood.
Yeah.
Now these guys are loving it. It's a gem. You hit it right on the head.
And kind of what I was talking about, building relationships. If we attract the right visitor, they're going to invest philanthropically. They're going to give money to support the museum. They're going to give money to support our schools. You know what I mean? Because they love Kauai, and their experience here is one. It's going to be beyond taxes and what they spend. I think we're going to build visitors that understand and support exactly what you're talking about, the regulation. And we need to also be thinking about, I'm part of a group that's been working on a green jobs proposal for some of this CARES money that the state has, and we've been pitching for a long time that places like Palau are way ahead of us. They have what's called a green fee. When you come in, you pay a $50 green fee, and it goes into protecting the environment. Kauai should be having the ability to implement a green fee or something like that to help support the care of our community and our natural resources. So, you know, but that home rule issue is not easily, you know, given up by the state. And so every day that goes by, like you said, we're getting closer to the end of the pandemic. So those conversations need to be started yesterday. And because this is an opportunity that will slip through our fingers if we don't have serious conversations here very, very soon.
You know, I think in listening to what you just said, you know, I was going to share that. I wake up in the morning, and then in the afternoons, it's right at Menahuni Road and Kamoli'i Highway, right in Waimea Town, 2-3 o'clock, hard for pull out, because all the tourists either going to Polehale or they're coming back. But today is like, it's beautiful. I mean, you get like 1-2 cars. So you don't need to worry about staying at that intersection right by Big C for pull out. You get the chance. But I'm looking at what you said, and I kind of was thinking about this. We give a lot of these visitors the opportunity to come here to look at the beauty, but they're not guided to the beauty. We just let them go and they run amok. And that's when somebody figures it out and says, hey, I can make a buck if I can just start guiding these people in the right way. Why should we let them think about that? It should be us that live here that should have the first dibs on that. Guiding the people in the right way to catch out the best opportunity. And like you said, I think it will drive down the amount, but and so it goes from quantitative to qualitative at that time.
Yeah.
If we get somebody locally that can be that guide going in that direction, because too many times you come here, you say go Polehale. Nobody guiding them out there. We just let them take on rent a car. They drive like a bunch of wild Indians out there, you know. They digging up the road. Every time the road, they get bust up because they think it's a 4-wheel drive. And you know, they should be controlled if they want to enjoy the experience, because they're damaging now and they're not thinking about tomorrow. Because tomorrow may get another set. And everybody just doing a lot of these. And too many times, and like you said, Mel, home rule, too many times the state opened the floodgates, but then we get left with all the kukai got to clean up. It
So
gets stopped afterward.
I would like to chime in on that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And Chipper, I always appreciate your broad vision of, and it speaks to truth, and it definitely looks at how we need to do it. I go back to like, can we do that by September? Like, we need to see some attainable, you know, I'm always like what can we do Wednesday that gets us closer by Friday, so that Monday when more people come, and I think Charlie brings up a great point. If the community can work with, I mean, we had Alan Carpenter from State Parks, who was a huge advocate to reduce the number in that park. We had, you know, once again, we had Sue. We clearly had the community on board. Everybody in the community was like, this has been enough 10 years ago or 20 years ago. But you had a couple champions in there that were willing to take a risk and work within the community to put that together. Because what you're experiencing at the intersection at Waimea, that's what we experienced until you have a reservation system that puts them in every 20 minutes, right? Our shuttles only go every half an hour. So 24 people go out there every half an hour. And that's from, you know, 7 to noon. So you really, there's still a pretty good amount of people there, but you're lessening the direct impact at one time. And it's a system that then they all spend money, right? And the money stays there because, you know, we're so fortunate. Our work staff is part of the most displaced Hawaiians in that area. We were lucky enough to swoop them up just based on relationships and all, you know, Sherman Maka and Jolian Mahuiki, like that's the crew that is now being a part of the success. They're helping guide these people, like you talked about, putting them on the shuttle, telling them, hey, you know what, don't go walk all over the reef. Like there's some leeway there to flex a little bit within reason, hopefully. But you're trying to guide them out there and let the people from the community be a part of that success. So you know, I completely agree with Mel and his concern, you know, and then Chipper, you know, brings in the broad vision. but it's like, what can we do by December? You know, and is there leadership within state that can look at Polahale or Waimea and say, or county? You know, I keep looking at that beach at Shipwrecks. I used to go down there and shoot weddings, and it's packed. I mean, there's cars all the way up to, what is that, the Hyatt over there? Like, I look at that and go, like, clearly the parking lot was developed with the capacity that park could handle. And when you park cars all the way up the road, that's more people than was planned for that area. So you're over impacting that area. So if you could say it's a reservation based, and you can and there's always going to be some room for residents. It's not just kind of like local kids kind of jockey for a position down there. There's always a place for a resident down there, and you got to make a reservation. And Brad's over there collecting the money or doing the thing at the door and checking your reservation. It's a small bite at the apple, and I just feel like sometimes those are the wins that we have time for. Maybe by the end of the COVID, because COVID's got to heal, and my fear is exactly the same thing. We're going to go back to, I think Chipper said it early on, and Alan always made that point. It's to go from 3,000 a day down to 900 is way harder than going from 0 up to 900, right? So when you got 0, how can you go up to a level that we can handle it? And it's going to take a lot of work, but it's going to take relationships within leadership to make that happen. Guys on the inside, for lack of a better word, that are willing to kind of risk it and push. Because like you said earlier, the governor's up there with all his HTA guys. Okay, well, if that's his friends, then we need to make sure he sees the value of this so he can go sell it to those guys, right? Like, that's an advocate for that message if he gets it, if you can. So we brought people out to Hyena to experience what it was like. You know, it's easy to talk about it, but when you go out there and you see manini swimming along the shore that you haven't seen in ever, no visitors, and you see this really soft, calm area, they become believers, right? And then they become advocates for your effort. And I think it's really important for them to get out here and do the site visit and see those areas as they return to be special. Because like Mel said, they're all up there at their big press conference. So those are friends. Those guys will trust each other. If you can get a couple of them to fall over and kind of agree with the benefit of this new system, then they can be advocates and get all of them to come on board and see how much it benefits the visitor and how much it benefits the resident as well. So I mean, I'm constructing some big master plan here, but I think that, the mayor said it last night, the divide and conquer kind of concept of like, I think he spoke more about a bite-sized piece of something. He had said, like, if you just take this problem, you kind of separate it out and then solve that one and solve that one, both problems are solved. I think, and having Chipper's kind of overall vision is great, but we also need to make sure that we're looking at specific areas that we can improve on, because that one little place at KA took 20 years, right? And so we don't got 20 years. So is there places that we can look at now that are not seeing the impacts that were so radically impacted for the last however long, that we can go down there and really experience the beauty of those places? And really, I mean, I can't imagine what it would be like for someone who grew up in Poipu to go down to that beach right now and just spend the afternoons down there and see it with just all locals. And, and there's going to be some visitors. This is America. We're going to have them. Great. That's awesome. But let's manage that. And if you have reservations and if you have a revenue source from them, they're willing to pay, it'll stay in the community. I mean, it's doable if we do it. And I think I'll shut up here, but I just want to say that a lot of that comes from the community, like somebody a trusted ally. Fortunately we had Chipper. Like, is there a more trusted human on the planet to make this advocacy ask to state parks? Someone who they trust, there's generational, benefit to him bringing that conversation up. I would just encourage whoever is out there to, look for that kind of relationships. And maybe you don't agree with everything they're doing, but that's fine. Let them have that conversation. Let them get some of those decision makers to support the concept of reducing the numbers, because it's better for everybody. It's better for the place. It's, kind of find your wins and push on those, right? And rather than, just kind of saying, hey, we're going to end it all. You guys ready? No, just kidding.
Well, absolutely. I think the difficulty in this whole scenario is because of the amount of moving parts. We talked about the TVRs, we talked about the flights, and the limited authority of the counties, and that's why we're going to really push this during this election season on this show. Is we have been trying to get amortization of TVRs. The state needs to change the law. That law does not benefit. The benefit to the state with that law in place, compared to the injury to the counties, is this. It's not worth the cost, the social impacts that the counties are facing with that law. And the law is really ridiculous. If you have a TVR, all the counties asking for, and we've been asking for this for years and years, and the state refuses to change that law, is that when you sell that property, the use goes away. So the new owner needs to purchase or apply for a permit. If they're out of a VDA, that use is forever gone. See, that law is preventing us from doing anything because the TVRs are grandfathered in. And that's pathetic. And that's one of the things when I talk about who's at the table, who's leading. Is it the industry or the people? The TVR issue, I don't care where you live, I don't care what island you live, I don't care what city or town, the community feeling on TVRs are the same. I'm talking about outside of the VDAs. I'm not talking about the legal,
Right.
I'm talking about the illegal ones.
Right.
All we need to do is when you sell that property, the use goes bye-bye. You know what that does? Automatically, the value of that property, and you cannot sell it because it's not revenue generating. So that's one bill that has to pass. We have to change that. The other one is the airlines. It's like a dam. You know, you block one puka, more pressure come out from the other hole. How do we plug all the holes, the major holes that create the biggest problem? We've identified the problem is over tourism, overpopulation, and I'm talking about Kauai. Hey, I don't give a damn about what they do in Honolulu, but what they do on Kauai. How can they not have a process in place where the community of Kauai has an opportunity to go testify at hearings when a new route is being proposed by an airline? How difficult would that be? No, it's not. It's rammed down our throat, and that's another 300 passengers coming in every single day. That's what I'm saying, Joe. I understand that this collaborative effort got to work, but the state has to allow us the opportunity to succeed in this effort.
Well, I'll share with you one thing. You know, when they allowed Kapalua Airport to be built, it was under the understanding that even small jets cannot land on the airstrip, had to be propeller planes, and that's how they stopped the big jets carrying a lot of people from landing at Kapalua. So if they can do them back then, I don't see why they cannot do it now. And this was back in the 80s, when Kapalua was first built, back in the 80s. So I think we fast forward now to what we have here. That's a controlling factor because they already set a precedence by doing it then.
Well,
I don't see.
But Charlie, we actually did that on Kauai too. I don't know. I mean, sure you remember. I mean, they wanted to build a long runway so the big planes could land, and we fought it for that for that exact reason. We didn't want a 747, a 767, a 777 landing and dumping, 600 people at a time. We wanted, we were trying to control growth back then by limiting the length of our runway. And, it worked for a while, but we got to take, so I think there are precedents that have been in place that I just think there's too much money involved, right? Every time they issue a new license, another airplane, you get more fees, it's just, and that fee game is what's driving some really poor decisions, in my opinion.
I want to ask a question for Mel, because I remember back in, I think it was in 2008 when the TVR ordinance was being implemented in the county. And you mentioned a little bit about it earlier. The difference in awareness and political will, it seems like the pendulum's completely swung. I mean, you were a lone wolf out there advocating for this. I felt not lone, but it was a pretty small percentage to map. You saw the problem on the writing on the wall, I think a lot longer than most people. And at the last election, when you guys all came out to Hyena and we did that forum, every council member was maybe there's one or two that weren't supportive of amortization or VDA, but it was like everybody. And there was 12 people up there and a couple mayor candidates, and it was like, it seemed like do you feel like it's going in the right direction? If that's the right,
Well, yeah, I definitely, I can remember, I got my ass kicked because of the TVR,
Right.
I did, but it is what it is. I got a lot of flack, but Today it's all different. Everybody, because now the impacts are noticeable, and that was my whole point, Joel, was that with COVID, people got a chance to see the Kauai that they haven't seen for 20 years, 30 years. My wife and I went to Lidgate a few weeks ago. We took my mother-in-law, 83 years old. We went and go. Lidgate was packed, with tourists. We go there. It was a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. We parked our car right up on the parking lot, and we walked out, checked out. It was just, I cannot remember when we got to do that. People are starting to feel like, you know what? I missed this. So we forgot how good it felt. And now we're feeling it, including politicians. So, and we got a few of the candidates running for office on this call right now. And I hope they're taking notes. But now is the time, because like you said, Joel, we talked about that window of opportunity is closing, and it's closing fast. And once it closes, and then it's business as usual, Chipper, and I'm gonna tell you, all of us, 4 of us right here, could have this show once tourism is booming, and KA will never be crowded because of what you guys have done. And thank you guys for that. But every place else is gonna be just slammed, and everybody's gonna be pumping. And you know what? The show tonight would have about 32 viewers. Would have 32 viewers because everybody else be busy and forgot about how good it was. And that's why I'm saying now there's no time to waste. The legislature needs to give the counties that, and I'm not asking for much. I'm just saying, hey, let us control our destiny. We know our island. We know our capacity, not the consultant that comes out of Connecticut or New York. He doesn't know shit. We know our carrying capacity. Let the people, let the communities decide. We can't swear on the show, by the way, if you haven't figured it out. We can actually cuss on this show because we're not censored. But my point is, we gotta move fast, and because because it's gonna disappear. But yeah, Joe, I think right now, getting back to your question, the now is the time is right, because you're right. Everybody is in agreement now that TVRs have become a problem and it's out of control.
I also like to say, and I want to thank Chipper. He said earlier, I got to taste what the Botanical Gardens, because he taking one city away from downtown Kauai, what I know about gardens. And that's why I have no problem when they ask. Now, when they ask, would I be willing to be the MC? I mean, I really had a nice time, because I saw a different side of the gardens. And I never thought at my age, I just turned 61 this year, looking for the first time plants. I was never a plant lover until I saw the garden. No. And this goes up for all the viewers out there, they kind of laughing like, yeah, right, Uncle Charlie. No, I was never a plant lover. But I can see that when somebody takes the passion to keep it going, and like my niece is with the National Tropical Botanical now, my niece Holly. She says, Uncle, we try so many ways of preserving the Aina. This is one of the ways you can do it, and it's protected. And when she said that, I went, ooh, was kind of powerful words. And I think what, tonight I'm learning more and more just by this conversation of what they did in Haena. I think if we, like what the mayor said, we take small chunks at it, it's easier to solve than a big chunk at one time. You just take small chunks and we work at it. And all we're doing is like football. We just keep on pushing the goalposts a little further down so we can get more field to play on. That's all we do it. But we gotta get people on board to do it quickly. And you brought out something really important, and that is, and it's moving fast. It's moving fast like on tsunami, and it's gonna catch us if we're not ready. Oh boy!
So one of the tools we implemented to make Haena successful. I mean, we could have had the master plan, the limits, the shuttle. It all would have fallen apart if the DOT had not agreed, and they ended up being successful in getting a bill through the legislature implementing a parking fine of $200 for a first offense. That no parking zone is a key factor in the success of Haena. Because if not, it's going to become a parking lot on the side of the road. They're going to walk down the beach. It's just going to be. And I think that was a state highway, which made it extra complicated. So we had the Attorney General and DOT. But think of all the areas on Kauai that are overrun by visitors who are parking on county roads. So the tool that the county could have and could implement quickly would be looking at how do we protect these special areas where they're being overrun by people parking on county roads, and implement a master parking kind of, plan that would increase the parking fine to the point where it stings enough that the tourists not gonna park there. That's a tool that maybe in our ability of implementing in months, not years. And I just thought about that. But one of the areas we're overrun on the South Shore is down by Spouting Horn, all along inside there. They're all parking illegally on the side of the road over there, County Road, and so it's the same issue. Sometimes our emergency response, the fire truck cannot even get through because they park on both sides of the road by Spouting Horn. So, but that's a county road. It's completely in home rule jurisdiction. I have no idea. It's probably a council decision to pass some bill that would allow the KPD to put a sign for $200 first offense. But that's a tool that we can begin to use. That's a small bite that we can use to start managing some of our areas.
And I just want to add to that you mentioned it quickly there, that public safety was the decision that the DOT always had, why they could or could not, right? If we couldn't prove that if it was safe, then that's for people to park. Like, that's part of what roads are. There's easements there for them to park. So you have legal saying, no, that's safe, but we found that it wasn't safe to get, the fire trucks out there. Because remember, at Lumahai, we had a little bit more of a challenge to try and get the parking zones, because you close off KA and you see the impacts at other places around the island. So it's not just a simple, wow, we got that win there. That win is a challenge for other areas. And so we really need to look at that holistic approach of the effects you have when you do shut one area down, but you don't not shut it down because of that. I always, it's like, it's definitely something to affect, and that means the work's not done. But it's not like, well, you're going to affect us, so don't fix KA. It's like, bro, KA has been hammered for 20 years. You got to fix that. And then we'll work on that, or maybe simultaneously. But I think that's really important that we look, and then make sure the signs get ordered. That's always, we had some challenges there. But.
Yeah.
Hey, the county has a sign shop, believe it or not. We have a sign maker. We make our own signs. It's just, again, there's so many areas like that. So the challenge is, how do you inventory all of these places?
Community. If you live there,
exactly.
and it's messing with your community, then advocate and get involved and get your council member to take that up and really prove why it's super dangerous for your kids and for your families, and you're going to take care of the merchants another way. You're going to make sure that business still survives. Just get ready for all that stuff. But it's totally doable, and I think having trusted advocates like Chipper in your community are really helpful.
Well, Chipper and Joel, I wrote this down early on, and I said it earlier, and I'm going back to it again. We cannot allow the industry of and I'm not isolating any one industry. I don't care what the issue is. We cannot let the industry or money dictate the future of our island. Remember, we're not talking about big metropolis of Honolulu. We're talking about Kauai, and we have to let the community, and that's where you guys come in. You guys are community advocates, leaders. You guys know how to do this stuff, and have the communities heard. And we can play around with band-aid solutions all day long, or we can go after the root of the problem, which you guys did in Haena. And that was challenging because a multi-jurisdictional.
Yeah.
You guys amazing, man. It was just
Still
amazing. And look what happened. Huh? I'm sorry.
It's still challenging today. Thank you, Chipper,
Yes,
for the call earlier. I mean, it does not end. It is a really incredible complex.
It's never going to get any easier. And that's where I think, the industry, they have a lot of money to spend on lobbyists, to lobby legislators, lawmakers, and that's the challenge, and that's the reality of life. I hate to be the realist, but I am. We got to do the same thing. We got to utilize volunteers, community groups that can go up and, like you just said, Joel, contact your council member, contact your representatives, and make them understand how painful it is or how impacting it is where we live and why these little adjustments need to be made. And we can walk first before we run, but we gotta start somewhere. And it's so critical now. I'm so concerned that we're going to run out of time, that this COVID is going to It's going to become a normal way of life. We're going to adjust to it, and the adjustments are going to be made to how do we adapt the visitor industry to COVID so that we can make our money again. And that's my fear.
But you're not going to win that behind COVID. I mean, maybe being a realist is you're not going to solve that by the time COVID's solved. But can we get a couple? Can we just get a couple wins under our belt before it opens? Like, can we divide and chip away at that a little bit, like Charlie said, and have a couple under, because
But
it's too big a complex problem that's been built up over decades to solve in 6 months or a year.
And I agree, we need a couple of wins. I agree with that. But I also, Mel, I don't think our community is going to forget. They're remembering now. It's coming back to them. This is the quality of life that we used to have. I don't think they're going to forget. So right now, we may not be able to solve these big complex problems in the next 6 months, but if we can put in motion the political and social will to get it done, then we'll keep going. And I don't think our community is going to forget. We just drove from Haiana to Kapa'a to Lihue the other day, right through town, no traffic. That's like, it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was like unbelievable.
But pictures and data right now is really helpful as well for that. I mean, having some scientific data to show that the environment is returning and have those beautiful images and really capture that so that we can utilize that later, I think will be helpful.
You know, I think they looked at, when you talk about that, they look at, certain mountain tops, like in the Andes, places like that. At one time, it was just really hard to see them from, even in Nepal. When you're looking up towards Everest, it was so hard to see. Then the next photo showed downtown Los Angeles. You look at downtown Los Angeles now, it's so beautiful. You don't see the smog that you used to see.
Yeah.
So I think, I was thinking about this and I told myself, I think you're right, Chipper. Right now is an opportune time for people who are serious, who wants to keep Kauai. Now's the time to do it because the backing, because of COVID, pretty much knocking everything out, scrubbing everything clean, it gives us this platform to start from. And if we don't take advantage of it to preserve what we have now, we may never get another chance at it. So that's why I said it's sort of like, you ask yourself, hey, how many times you can wash your underwear before you got to throw your underwear away? So the thing is, how many times can you scrub Kauai clean before you throw Kauai away? You cannot throw Kauai away. That's why you got to make a good attempt at trying to preserve it and keep it, sustain and keep it really pristine as best as you can. But I think, like I said before, if we don't have any interest from the community to start guiding these people that come over here and visit, you just allow them that once they grab their keys, they get in their rental cars, they do whatever they want to do. That's where the problem starts. And I see it happening every time. And we just got to say, hey, I think if I went to your neck of the woods and you got a certain set of rules that I got to follow, I'm going to follow because I'm not from there. I'm not from Iowa. I'm not from South Dakota. And I would expect you to do the same here. That's all we ask. Yeah. We're not asking for no more than that.
We've been fortunate to, since we opened, to speak a little bit to that. We've moved over 80,000 people from out of K into that park, and we've removed about 35 to 40,000 cars off the road since it's open. So, and exactly that, when you have them in the shuttle for 20 minutes or a half an hour, you have such a great opportunity to provide messaging for them that is from the area that we talk about trying to get in the airlines movie or other ways to get to the visitor. When you got them trapped in a vehicle for a half an hour, you can really share with them the specifics that you want and really kind of hone in on that messaging. So it really becomes a great opportunity to be a guide rather than just letting them run free and going any kind of places, because we only go to lifeguarded beaches and places where there's merchants, right? We don't go to all kind of beaches and up different valley roads. Like we go and 90% of the people on the shuttle are going to hike. It's an activity in their day, right? It's like we can either go, boat ride, helicopter, or hiking. And so hiking for $20, even though we're at 15, is much more affordable. It's a long day outside versus the $200 helicopter ride. It becomes attractive. And then you have them contained in a vehicle. You can give them such great messaging, and they really come out of it a better visitor. And I think Chipper, you all said it earlier, a lot of these people want to be. I think genuinely these visitors want to be good stewards. They want to be good stewards. But if they aren't if we don't provide them that opportunity, then it's hard to get mad at them when they're not that.
Yep.
Lots of work ahead, man. Lots of work ahead. I want to challenge the four of us right now to go get that signs put up at Spouting Horn. I think that would be an awesome victory. A little win. Not tonight, yeah. But I'm too busy tonight. We staking out the airport tonight for illegal tour operators. But no, I think that now again that's a great time for that because the traffic volume is almost zero. Now is the time to do it, and get it done. So anyway, we went a little beyond the time. Chipper, any closing thoughts for the people? And I just want to thank the both of you, man. You guys, we can judge the quality of the guests by the number of visitors that stay on, and you guys have stayed on. Nobody has left, so you guys have been
Chipper.
Yeah. Parting comments. I just mahalo for convening this. I think, it starts with conversations. I learned that phrase from Joel, and it's so true: community-led, government-supported. I encourage all of your listeners to be out there. They're community people. Get out there and begin planning. There's nobody that knows better than the community what the solutions are and what the areas that need protection. So like Joel said, start activating, come up with your plan, contact your council, contact your elected officials, because this is the window. But without the community support, government's never gonna move. It's just never gonna move quick enough or effective enough. But with pushing and leadership from the community, there's nothing we cannot tackle. I'm a believer in that.
I just in closing, thank you, Chipper. I think that was well said, and I appreciate you guys putting this platform together because just echoing what Chipper said, it is community-led. There's great people in government that want that support from the community. I mean, obviously there's bad apples everywhere. There's bad apples in the community, so don't listen to them. I mean, not saying that everybody is solid, but there are good people, and there are good people on both sides. So if we can get them working together, I think we can see those successes.
Joel, you mentioned something about shooting some weddings out somewhere. Is that what you do?
No, I did that year. Yeah, I was doing that at Shipwrecks years ago, and I'd go down there and there'd be like a wedding going on and a kid, just like scrap and a bunch of tourists, and there was just kind of a big scene there.
So you don't do photography anymore?
Video anymore. I run, like I said, I've been fortunate enough to work for a nonprofit. Why, getting married again or?
No, no, man. We do not normally promote businesses, but I was gonna give you a free plug, man. I mean, I was gonna give you a free plug.
I'm good. No, I got plenty going on with right now.
Okay, I just when you said it, it caught my ear because I'm looking down doesn't mean I'm not paying attention. I actually listen. Chipper, what about the gardens, man? Anything going on special for our viewers?
Well, yeah, actually, thank you for asking because we've been shut down. And we're very excited. We've been piloting a soft opening right now with our members and donors. And in July, we're going to open to our community. And we feel that there's nothing right now that can be better and more healing than a visit to our gardens. So we're very excited about opening up to our community in July and being able to, obviously, with proper social distancing and all of that. So we take this really, really seriously. But stay tuned and look for those opportunities because it's coming on both the South Shore, Allerton and McBride, as well as Limuhuli on the North Shore.
If you haven't been to the gardens, please get ready for July. You guys gotta go down there, man. That's just a beautiful place. So, Charles.
Well, I first would like to say thank you very much to both of our guests tonight. Thank you so much, Chipper. Thank you so much, Joe, for coming on board with us, spending an evening. A lot of times when other than a special that you're on, we only get a snippet of an individual when he's making a comment on one of the news or in the papers or something. But tonight you get a total hour and you can get a lot of things accomplished. So I'd just like to give a great big mahalo to both of you. And to our viewers, I'd like to thank you for sticking by with us tonight and listening to this. I think it was a well put conversation because it gives us an insight of how something has started on one end of the island and it can move throughout the entire island to preserve the island. And we have to start doing it now. You know, the time will be against us pretty soon. So I'd just like to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. And to my partner, Mel, I turn it over to you, brother.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Just a couple of announcements. Don't forget, we do this every night. You can find all of the old episodes. Chipper, I know you don't on Facebook, but you can go to YouTube. I have a channel on YouTube. Every single episode is there. You can pick and choose. We got some hilarious episodes on there. And then again, don't forget the testing, guys. COVID testing next week, Wednesday at Kauai Beach Resort. doctorsofwaikiki.com. Get on there and make your appointment. And then next week we bring in our candidates on. Our council candidates will be on starting Monday. I will be releasing the schedule. I'm still waiting for a couple of them to respond, but majority of them have. But we're going to have 4 of them on per night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we'll finish out the week. Each of them will have 15 minutes. We get to know our candidates, so we can be a little more akamai about the vision of our people that's making that step to run for office. So that's going to be a fun week next week. And then tomorrow night and Friday night's guests are big surprises. So and Saturday.
Oh, we got our Friday night guests. We got our Friday night guests already. Yeah. No, his name is Shh. You just gave away the secret.
We have a lot of fun on this show. Anyway, join us tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Again, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you guys' time. We'll get you guys on again as things change. We'll be having you guys come back on. Keep our fingers crossed that these numbers stay down here on Kauai.
Yeah.
With that, everyone, God bless. You guys take care. Stay safe. We love you
Aloha.
guys.
Aloha.
Aloha. Actually, I got to go look for my button here.